Terminus is a game that starts you off with a seemingly straightforward goal: survive the zombie apocalypse. And while that's probably not something you're unfamiliar with from other zombie games across the genre, Terminus comes with a deceptive amount of detail in how you decide to take on this challenge. So, in this video, I'll be covering all of the tips and tricks you need to know when getting started with Terminus, and hopefully I'll be equipping you with the best knowledge for increasing your survival times. If you get something useful from this video for your own playthroughs, drop the video a like and subscribe for more tips, tricks, and info content just like this. With that out of the way, let's get into tip number 1. Make good use of your occupation abilities, especially if you recruit a survivor on your runs. They will have occupation abilities too, and they could be better than you think. For example, I came across a pastor that I identified early on was a pacifist that wouldn't fight zombies, so I almost decided to stop recruiting him and leave him behind altogether. However, I decided to go ahead anyway and found the pastor has some fantastic buffs they can provide to other survivors around them. Construction workers are another great example. They can lift furniture items and use them to kill a zombie instantly by dropping it on top of them. This can work out great in a pinch against zombies with large health pools. Keep in mind that when recruiting survivors, you'll have a maximum of 3 members in your party before it's considered full. While talking to a survivor to gain their trust, you can stop and view their information to assess whether they might be worth having or not. That said, survivor encounters are rare, and when you get started, it may be better to simply bring on the first people you meet to increase your survival chances rather than holding out for a companion that's perfect for your group. Carry some spare weapons, and don't think just because a weapon has low damage that it can't be useful. Weapon condition can be degraded quickly, so having a weapon with low damage that you don't really care about will help finish off wounded zombies without damaging your better weaponry that you might want to keep for as long as possible. You can even craft your own weaponry with basic materials if you'd like, one of the easiest and most effective being a wooden spear that has increased range compared to most weapons. Don't neglect the crafting menu in Terminus. Let's say you can't find a knife, for example, and need one in order to butcher the meat from an animal you found or caught. You can craft a stone knife relatively easily with items you can find in the world or acquire through dismantling other items. It won't be very useful as a weapon due to its low durability, but it can make for a great crafting tool early on, or just to save your other knives from losing condition when they could be used as an effective weapon against more dangerous targets. Rotting corpses can often hold valuable items like adrenaline shots that could save you in a sticky situation. However, you will obtain a disease when searching the body. To negate this entirely, you can keep a pair of gloves on you. Any pair of gloves will do for this, but if you equip them before searching the body, you'll reduce their durability substantially. In return, you'll be able to avoid the disease that you would pick up otherwise. Invest in learning some cooking recipes in your playthrough, and don't forget to take some time to cook up meals in batches from time to time. You'll need a cooking pot, a frying pan, and something to light a fire with in order to do this. By combining ingredients and cooking an actual meal, you'll often add large amounts of morale gain to your food items. Just keep in mind that adding items that are stale or rotten will change the overall product and potential shelf life. If you find that a food item is too large for one survivor to consume in a single meal after being cooked, you can click on this icon to split that cooked food item into 2 or 3 portions. This will allow for efficient consumption of food, which is especially important in the early stages because it tends to be very difficult to come by until later parts of your run. When deciding what items to eat first, try to pick whichever items are going to go stale first. Once an item goes stale, they are still safe to eat, but lose that morale bonus. You'll want to gain morale whenever possible, so we'll eat fresh foods first that are closest to going stale, then eat stale food on the risk of going rotten as a secondary priority. The park locations are a great spot to either collect water, leave traps, or do some fishing, and will likely be your only reliable source of fresh food the further you go into a run. You'll have a higher chance to catch something with traps in these locations, and you can use the lake to collect dirty water, then purify it by boiling it in a pot over a fire. If you're going to attempt to use some traps to catch animals for food, remember that you can click on a trap and insert a food item to significantly increase chances of catching something. You'll also have much better chances of doing so if you aren't in the area, so leaving these a space or 2 away from your chosen base location, if you have one, is advised. On a similar token, fishing with bait will always be preferable, and you can turn rotten food into bait with the crafting menu. which you won't be eating anyway. Zombie guts can also be used to craft huge amounts of fishing bait or fertilizer for crops, so make use of these if you find them after killing zombies. Consider your attacks carefully. Usually it's best to attack a zombie's head, because this is the only place that will result in killing said zombie. But if you know you won't have enough AP to actually kill the thing, it could be better to take out the legs to reduce their mobility and allow you to escape, or take out their arms and reduce their attack damage. In a similar vein, picking your target can also be important. Usually, tough zombies or big zombies are the most dangerous threats, but in situations where there are multiple enemies on screen, it could be better simply to pick off the weak targets and reduce the number of threats available. There are many ways to handle every situation put in front of you, so consider your actions and make an informed choice. You don't have to fight every zombie you come across. In fact, to preserve weapon durability, it's often best to avoid fights where possible. Use windows and doors to slow zombies that are aggroed on you, and avoid them entirely if they haven't spotted you. You'll be glad for it later when you end up in a big fight and need as many weapons as you can get your hands on. Try to keep some items that will increase water resistance, or an umbrella if you can find one. Keeping these until it rains will reduce the chance of your character becoming wet and then cold, which will have negative effects like a reduction of health and AP gained between turns. Just remember to unequip clothing items like raincoats or windbreakers after it stops raining to preserve their durability. Keeping a good sleep schedule in Terminus can increase your chances of success. Nighttime can be dangerous, especially if you don't have the perk Cat's Eye that allows you to see further at night. Reduced visibility is one way, so zombies will still notice you, and thus you could end up in a bad situation very easily in the dark. Not to say you can't travel at night, but it's usually safer to try and have your characters sleep during this time, and lining up when they are likely to be low on energy with 10 PM when it gets dark. Locked doors can be opened from the inside, which is useful because climbing through windows will always come with the slight chance of giving your character a sprain. If you can get one survivor inside, have them open the door for the others so that they aren't taking that risk, it's always going to be beneficial. Make use of tape whenever you find it to craft some makeshift armor. You can read any magazine or book and then combine it with a roll of tape to make some armor that will soak up one zombie attack. It might not sound like much, but it can be a lifesaver in situations where a high damage zombie manages to get in a heavy hit, and they're cheap to make considering you can use books or magazines you've already made use of. Points of interest like research centers and checkpoints are major challenges that will be crowded with undead. Make sure you've prepared for investigating them by bringing a lot of weapons as well as some items that will keep up morale and energy, since you're unlikely to get a break for rest. My suggestion here would be to avoid using firearms unless you absolutely have to in larger points of interest like the research centers, since there can be hundreds of zombies on site that will be otherwise unaware of your presence. Take things methodically and clear out the area section by section, rather than firing a gun and drawing all of them to you at once. In Terminus, you start with just 3 occupations and unlock 3 more each time you complete a successful run by engaging one of the possible 6 endings. You also have an overall account level, which grants you more trait points to use on your new characters each time you play. As you'd probably suspect, the best way to gain XP is generally to try and complete as many runs as you can. If you're looking to do this quickly and unlock some more occupations to play around with, the easiest victory condition to meet is reaching Terminus. All you'll need for this is a working radio, and once you've listened to it, you'll be given the location of Terminus on your map and you can start heading towards it. You can repair a broken radio by using a screwdriver, or if you can't find a radio, just head north. Terminus is always going to be along the top section of the map, and you'll always start by the lower section. Ideally, you'll want to make sure you have a pair of pliers to cut the fences covering railroads and Terminus itself, and a shovel that you can use to dig through debris should you need it to get through an obstacle. You can usually find these items on your way, and if you can get there in under 7 days, which is entirely doable, you'll earn an achievement for your actions as well. When moving to a new location on the map, you'll need a certain amount of AP available to make the trip. However, it's also worth making sure you have plenty of AP available once reaching the new area. Having a surplus will mean that should there be any nasty surprises waiting for you, you're well equipped to deal with the problem. If you travel and have no AP available upon arrival, you might end up in a very bad situation. Dismantling items can be useful if you're looking for some materials for crafting. For example, dismantling a rag will give you some thread, and breaking down weapons can provide useful scrap metal. You may need these for items in the crafting menu, or for victory scenarios like creating the vaccine or escaping via boat or helicopter. Decayed zombies will pose a massive risk to your survivors and should be avoided if possible, since they can apply a disease when attacked in melee combat. If you absolutely can't find a way to avoid them, however, this is where spears can be useful. Spears can attack diagonally over tiles, where most melee weapons can't, giving you the ability to kill the decayed zombie from further away and avoid a disease altogether. Firearms are obviously a suitable alternative, but come with their own risks unless you have a suppressor. Fortified houses provide you with a chance to trade items with another group of survivors, as well as being able to win their trust via quests they provide you as one of the 6 possible victory conditions for the game. If you're going to be trading with them regularly, it's good to know that their stock refreshes once a day. Check in regularly for new items and be sure to make the most of it if you have some stuff you don't think you'll need. Movement of your characters might be a little more complex than you first realize. Now, obviously moving into areas you've not discovered or cleared yet can be dangerous, and you might want to make smaller movements to ensure you're not getting yourself into a bad spot. But what you might not know is that by moving further in a single action, you actually receive discounts on the amount of AP used for that move. You can see this when hovering over the tile you wish to move to. The game displays how much AP you'll save moving to this location in one move, rather than one tile at a time. So that's it for all of the tips you'll need to arm yourself with the best chances of success in Terminus Zombie Survivors, and that's it from me in this video. But as always, if you'd like to share your own tips with other players down in the comments, I'd encourage you to do so. It's a great way for new players to pick up tips from experienced veterans, or just to share what you've learned inside of a few hours of game time. I also have a second channel where I've got a couple of full 4-hour-long streams that have been uploaded if you want to see some more gameplay. You can find a link to that on my homepage or down in the description. Special thank you, as always, to my channel's Patreon supporters for backing what I do, and there is a link down in the description for that as well if you want to join them for as little as £1 a month. Thanks folks, I will see you all in the next one.